What do you take away from that story?
Well, that's an ethic that will be foreign to a lot of commercial broadcasters today, but will be quite familiar, I think, to a lot of viewers and people who follow radio. That's a story of a low-power FM radio station run by a small number of people in a small and not particularly affluent community because they care about the place where they live. They want news about the place where they live. They want culture about the place where they live. And at the most fundamental level, they want emergency information when there's a crisis. And I think that sadly, the track record of the big commercial broadcasters today is that they failed on all of those scores.
As you travel the country, what has happened to local reporting, to alternative journalism out there?
Well, I've seen a decline in the number of people out there doing local reporting. I'm a little afraid of a myth going around that we don't have to worry about the loss in professional journalism because there are citizen journalists who will make up the difference. I think there's some terrific bloggers out there, terrific people who sit at their computer and have smart things to say, good editorial writing, lots of good commentary, but actual local reporting, the kind of hard coverage that's regular, sustained, probing, penetrating, that requires resources, it requires skills, it can require institutional backing. That's not the kind of thing that citizens do as well as professionals. And I think this is a time for Americans to be defending professional journalism for what it can deliver. Let's remember that American democracy is intensely local. That's one thing that makes this country different from many other places. Our city governments, our state governments have tremendous power to shape the institutions that affect our lives, the lives of our family members, our children. In the absence of regular professional reporting, looking at what's happening at the school board, the tax board, the roads, the hospitals, local businesses, we have potential for incredible abuse.
You write in your book about the extraordinary levels of local interest in this issue of media reform, like that story in Lafayette, Louisiana. Have you found active bipartisan coalitions in other communities around the country?
Well, I have, and this is another remarkable thing. We live in a time when Americans are despondent about the so-called culture wars, the divisions separating the red states and the blue states, the conservatives and liberals. But look at the issue of network neutrality or internet freedom. Look at this issue of consolidation and competitiveness in American media markets. You find that Republicans and Democrats alike are coming to the table and fighting for air together.
Is Congress listening? Is the FCC listening?
I think what Congress and the FCC understand all too well at this point is that the more open and public and democratic a hearing this issue gets, the less support there is for media consolidation. And so the danger is that Congress and the FCC will rush legislation through before anyone has a chance to really participate. I look for the FCC to be rushing to get legislation passed without a democratic process. I'm very concerned about that. It happened in 2003. There's every sign that it's about to happen again. And again, one reason for writing this book is to issue an invitation for all Americans to get in touch with their local congressional officials, to get in touch with the FCC, and to demand the kind of open, free media that once made this democracy in America very strong.
That hearing you attended in Los Angeles, as I understand it, word went out about it only 3 days in advance.
This is incredible. Think about another issue where you could have 3 days advance notice and find 500 people in an overflowing room at 1 p.m. on a workday to come together and sound off on a major public policy issue. In 2003, the FCC said it would do these kinds of hearings. They started. They then aborted the hearings once it became clear that the message, no more consolidation, was not what the then Chairman Michael Powell wanted to hear. And then the Commission ignored the public input altogether when it came time to crafting legislation. They got reprimanded by the courts. The order got remanded. It's now back in play. And the question now is whether these kinds of hearings are democracy for show or whether they're democracy for real.
Whose side is the FCC on?
Well, sadly, it looks like the FCC has been working in the interests of the small number of companies it's charged with regulating. We need the FCC to be accountable to the people, accountable to democracy, and responsible for making sure our democratic culture works. This is an issue that transcends party lines, and I have to say, for anyone who's despondent right now about the state of America's political culture, pay attention to what Americans from all walks of life are doing on media. It's incredible to see these bipartisan coalitions. They're in every city and town, Americans coming together to fight for a better media.
The book is Fighting for Air, The Battle to Control America's Media by Eric Klinenberg, and it's out in January. Thank you for joining us. In the meantime, you can go to pbs.org to find out more about media and democracy. I'm Bill Moyers. Thanks for joining us.